can't believe this kid. I can't believe it every time. How does he get this money for these things? I don't understand. I'm not even his accountant. I don't even want to be his accountant. He's spending $60 a game. What's this? $3,000 for sculptors. What do you play with clay? Oh, this is infuriating. I can't believe I'm making this call as a lawyer. Game room phone is ringing. Usually it doesn't ring unless I'm in trouble. Come on, pick up the phone. Pick up the phone. I'm wasting my time here on this prick. Wish I had caller ID. Yo, this is Dylan.
Perry, what the fuck do you think you're doing?
What did we talk about last time before you blew me up on YouTube, huh? We said no to the game room, yeah. I do remember that. So what do I have here? You spent $3,000 on a video game about clay morphing and fighting. I can explain that charge. You do realize you can't afford anything. You're broke. I'm not even your accountant right now, and I'm telling you these things because it's sad and it's depressing. No, okay. You need to figure out new ways, is what I'm telling you to do. Find new ways to collect your video games. It's 2022. Go out there. Hit the streets. I don't know what to tell you, but you're broke. You can't even afford me right now. We're done. Wait, what? I can't afford you? Hello? Well, back to the drawing board, I guess.
It's me, Mario. An unopened copy of Super Mario 64 sells at auction for $1.5 million.
Alright, Season 2, where do I begin? Well, I would have come back sooner, but I kind of binge-watched Better Call Saul again, so you can blame that on my leave of absence.
Fuck you, Jimmy. There's really no need to... Oh my god! Oh my god! No!
Holy shit. I can't edit after that. I can't. Better go let off some steam.
And because of that, we'll probably see a few memes thrown in. But hey, at least it's not Morbius memes.
Stephen Strange. You now call before the Illuminati. Meet the Morbius.
It's Morbin time.
YouTuber Scott the Woz.
Hey y'all, Scott here. Morbius is an incredible movie.
Angry video game nerd. And the best gamer alive, Dylan.
So today's episode is going to be on something that I may have touched on in the game room video, but I want to go more into detail on this one. Game collecting and game hunting. Without those things, I really wouldn't have a game room. It'd just be a room with a TV and a system in it. Now, you really could say that I got into video game collecting a long time ago when I just picked up a controller for the first time and started playing video games. And you'd be right. I remember at a young age having a box full of video games from NES, Super Nintendo to N64. My mom never really got into the whole PlayStation thing because there was 2 joysticks and the N64 had 1, so she apparently didn't know what to do with both thumbs. But it was back in those days when video games that you would call valuable now weren't really that valuable back then. I mean, for $10 back then, you could have went to Blockbuster and bought Clay Fighter Sculptor's Cut for N64. But like I said earlier, back then, none of this stuff was worth anything. It was just a piece of plastic that you could put into a video game system. Some people just thought it was a piece of plastic. I remember as a kid going to yard sales and my mom would buy old NES, Super Nintendo, and Game Boy games for dirt cheap. Probably $10 for a whole box of Earthbounds, if we're being honest. And nobody thought back then that these games are going to be worth a fortune. I'm talking about the 90s, not the 2000s, where people started to pick up on values on video games and the nostalgia of it. People in the 90s still had the video game crash in the back of their heads because of a little alien that was from a movie they loved dearly. So that's how I got most of my video games back then, on the cheap side or at Blockbuster. And then all the N64 stuff, aka the modern stuff back then, my mom would go buy brand new. I remember back in the day, my living room was a glorified game room. My mom kept all the boxes for Super Nintendo and 64 games. We even had a full cabinet full of Nintendo Powers and strategy guides. Reading those guides in Nintendo Powers and looking at the video game boxes was a big reason for me learning how to read. You put a novel in front of me, I'm good, thanks, I'm gonna pass.
Spider on my book. That is ironic.
And this collection my mom had even continued with the GameCube and Game Boy Advance. And like I mentioned earlier, another way I would collect video games was Blockbuster. They used to put all their games... Wait. What do you mean you don't know what Blockbuster is? Let me explain. In the 80s and 90s, home video rental was becoming a big thing. Kind of like Netflix, if you will. Picture Netflix, but a store you would go to and physically rent a movie and then bring it back when you're done. Kind of like a library. Honestly, that probably isn't a good analogy either. You know what? It's a place you would go rent movies and eventually video games.
More power for non-stop
What game do I want? Nothing looks good. I already have all these games at home. Wait a second.
Who knows? Big rigs.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll get this. Why not? $10.
With big rigs. Engines equipped with...
Yeah, can I get this, please? That's it today. Sculptor's cut, nice. Did you want to go in the back room and get a movie like last week? No, I don't want to go in the back room today. Look at those videos. My mom's with me in the car. Oh, your mom's out there in the car? No worries, dude.
Eventually, once their movies and video games have run its course, they would sell them at a very discounted price. Hell, some games like Indiana Jones for the N64 and Sculptor's Cut were exclusive to Blockbuster. And that's how I'd buy a lot of games. I remember quite a few games on a Friday night. I'd spend my allowance on said N64 GameCube games.
I feel like I'm getting so old, and I'm not even 30.
Also, you had the birthdays and holidays, but those were the main ones throughout the whole year. Then came my middle school and high school era of collecting. The big things for me back then were the flea market, which I would go to probably twice a month, pick up games dirt cheap there, and trading in older games I already had for new ones. And boy, when somebody says they're going to trade in 60 games and get $1 from GameStop, I felt that as a kid.
$1.60 for 30 games in a system?
But then being an adult happened and growing up happened, so I was pretty much getting rid of all the games I had. But with all of that, eventually comes adult money, which means if I really wanted to, I could get those games back. And thus kicks in the new era of video game collecting. You had video game YouTubers collecting like Pixel Game Squad, Pat the NES Punk, Chase After the Right Price, Metal Jesus Rocks. I could go on forever about different YouTubers that would collect video games.
Hold 2, Mike Mankey. Hold 3, Scott the Woz. Backfan. Hold number 712, Froggy. Can we physically get him out of the ring?
And with all that new fame of YouTubers talking about video games came the unfortunate reality that game prices were rising. And then COVID happened, so fuck me, right? COVID not only made video game prices skyrocket, it made the YouTube atmosphere of video game channels also skyrocket.
What are you looking at me for?
We've seen prices like we've never seen. N64 and GameCube are a perfect example. You had people that were staying inside, not going anywhere, who wanted something to do. So what do to make themselves feel better? Lean on nostalgia. Thanks to channels like Retro Rick and Mr. Right Way and the older channels I mentioned before, I've learned that it is still possible to collect games to this day without breaking the bank or taking a loan out. Because most of the time you don't get what you're looking for or anything crazy. But man, when you do find something crazy, like how I found a bunch of GameCube games at a thrift store one time, it feels like I'm Captain Jack Sparrow finding treasure for the first time.
My side of the bed was human fecal matter.
Okay, I think that was the wrong meme, Josh.
Look what I got. I got a jar of dirt. I got a jar of dirt. And guess what's inside it?
There we go, much better. There's just something exciting finding a rare game that you've wanted to play but don't want to fork out the money for, and then enjoying it because you paid $3 for it versus $300. And then if you don't like it, trade it in for some other stuff. That's another thing about game hunting. I love going to retro game stores. It doesn't happen nearly as much, but sometimes you do get some pretty good deals at game stores. And you never know what they have.
Alright, Chad's still gaming. Let's go check it out. What's that right over there? Is that Sculptor's Cut? Yeah, this Sculptor's Cut, yeah. It's funny, I remember passing on this back in the day at Blockbuster. I really regret that one. How much is it? It's a $3,000 game. I used to work at Blockbuster, yeah, isn't that crazy? It used to be worth nothing back then. Yeah, I'm just gonna go. I'll be right back. There's money in my car, I promise. Yeah, I'll hold it for you, don't worry. $3,000. I'm gonna go somewhere else.